Well, if it stinks, then I won't use it, but I'll turn it on. Okay. So, going back to what we were saying, we're practicing measuring this angle with a protractor. We have put the little window on the corner. We have put the bottom ray under the black line. But how do I know which set of numbers to use? And there is a way to know. How do I know? Mason, what would you say?
If it's obtuse, you have to have the number over more than 90.
Okay. If that's a huge clue, isn't it? If my angle is obtuse, then I know that I'm looking for a number bigger than 90. Okay? And what do you want to add on?
I'd like to add on the Mason because every number on the bottom is what you use.
Okay, can you explain what you mean
Like
by that?
under. Never mind. I don't know how to explain.
Do you need to come up and point something? Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like those numbers right there that have the lines too.
Okay. So the bottom numbers. All right. Why do you think we're going to use those bottom numbers? 0 starts here.
Because an
we
acute
count.
angle is less than 90. An obtuse angle is over 90.
Okay, but watch what happens here. 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50.
It would have to be the one.
Okay, hold on. So if I go by what you said, this is what I'm saying. If I go by what you said, and I think you know, but let's make sure we're saying it right. But if I go and I count on those bottom, I'm going to say that that's a 50-degree angle. Now look at it.
It's obtuse.
Because it starts over here. So help us out here.
It's not the bottom, but it's at the top because it's lined up this way.
Okay. Find your bottom ray. Find your bottom ray, and wherever that bottom ray is, that's where you start.
Hair art.
What'd I do? I moved it?
Yeah, and hair art.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the hair art. Okay.
Your hair art moved it.
These are tricky on these boards, but find your bottom ray, and that's where you know where to start. Count from there. Okay? So it actually winds up being the top numbers because the zero's over here. And when we go, and it's between 50 or 130. It was actually closer to 130 a second ago. Now it looks like it's more like 129. Okay. Is that a 50-degree angle or is that a 129-degree angle? Yeah. So when you pull off your protractor, you think you've got the number. If your number is smaller than 90 and you know that's obtuse, lay it back down and find the other number that it should be. Okay. But if you'll look to where your bottom ray is, that's where you start. That's the 0 that you go with. Not this 0, but this 0. What do you want to say?
I think that Kayla was thinking that the bottom ray was on the other side of it. What's the other side?
Okay, maybe so.
But it actually.
Yeah, if the bottom ray had been over here, we would have done what you said and we'd have counted up that way. Okay.
Did you move the line of the protractor?
I was trying to erase the board and it moved
The
it.
line.
Okay. So y'all have told me some really good, helpful things to using the protractor. And we're going to practice that for just a minute on this sheet. Don't worry about the back right now. We'll come to that in just a little bit. So we're going to do this. We'll stop. We'll check them. And then we'll do what's on the back. Okay? So if you would put your name at the top. There isn't a spot for it, but go ahead and put it on the top. Oh, you know what? There's a name spot on the very bottom. I see it now. Didn't forget Gaijin is not even here to appreciate it.
We'll tell him tomorrow. Wait.
No.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Come on, Miss Ray, you can hold it.
What is? I don't know.
Did she tell you that she was doing that? Why didn't you? Time out.
I guess that's her business right now. We'll let it be her business.
Did she take this one?
I'm trying to think. All right, so I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and work on that on your own, and we're gonna check them in just a second.
Did we do the back?
No, just the front. Okay. All right, you've got two things to write on there. How big the angle is, like what the number is. But also they want you to write, is it obtuse or acute? I know that you are probably finished. Just a second. There you go. Check one more thing. All right, I'm just gonna have to go with it not being on the board, okay? All right, so let's look at the first one. We're gonna start right here. All right, let me know what you got there for that first one. Okay, hey, what you get? 115 degrees. Does anybody agree with that? Same answer. That is correct. But is it acute or obtuse? It's definitely obtuse. Larger than 90. That is 115 degrees. Did anybody, and if you're brave enough to share this, did anybody get a different answer there? And want to tell us what you probably did? What'd you get?
Well, it was like pretty close to 115. It was 114.
Okay, it's right on that half. You know how that halfway mark is a little bit bigger? It's right on top of that. So it's
really sweet.
It's 115. Okay. All right. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's 115. All right, the next one right beside it. Alex, what you get for that one? 56. 56. Okay. Anybody get 56? No.
I agree.
All right. What did you get if you disagree?
I did
50. All right. If you look closely, it is, and it might have looked like a 6 because I can see where that 0 might look like a 6, but it is on the 50 mark. That is a 50-degree angle, which would also make it, Isabella, is it acute or obtuse? Acute. Mm-hmm. So 50 degrees. Okay, right in the right answer. You don't have that. This is 115. This is 50. Okay. Okay, going down to the middle row, the first one there. What do we have there, Brandon?
An acute angle, and it's 11 degrees.
Okay. Can you see how it's 11 degrees? I'm going to go ahead and say that's correct because it is right above 10. Okay, that is 11 degrees. It is definitely smaller than 90. It is acute for sure. Okay. All right, look at the next one. Charlotte, what did you get for the next one? 165. Anybody else get 165? Okay, look at the size of the angle. Can it be 165? Okay, look at the size of this angle right here. Is it going to be 165? Okay. What did you get? Bailey, what did you get? You got 24. Okay. It's very close to 24. It's actually what? It's actually 25. How do you know it's 25 and not 100 and it actually would have been 155? How do you know it's not 155? Yeah.
Because the 160's on the top.
Okay, but it really, I mean, doesn't matter what's on the top or the bottom. How do we know what number to pick? Yeah.
It hasn't even reached 90 degrees.
Okay. Look at where the bottom is and look at where the top is. That thing looks tiny. It definitely looks smaller than 90. It's not anywhere close to 90. Okay. It's definitely acute and it's 25 degrees. Sometimes when it's something in the middle like that, you gotta pay attention to where are the other numbers so you know which one to put with it. All right, on the bottom, the first one on the bottom. What do we have there? Go ahead, Reggie.
I got 74 degrees and it's acute angle. 75.
This is how you know that it's sitting on 75. You can't see the long one. You see what I'm saying?
But there's 3 more, like where the arrow is pointing, it's 3 marks after 70. So that would What's 74? Yeah, you can see the force lightning. I can see the.
I can see what you mean too.
Yeah, me too.
I can see what you mean too. All right. So if somebody had put 74, I'm not gonna mark that wrong. It probably is closer to 75 than 74, but I'm not gonna mark you wrong because what she just said, and you do only see 4 of the little degree marks. All right, everybody, is it acute or obtuse? It is definitely acute, and it is 74 or 75 degrees. All right, last one there. Kennedy, what'd you get for that last one there? Pull that down. Pull that down. Okay, keep measuring that out. Shayla, what'd you get for that one? Looking at it, okay. Look at it carefully and then we watch. Look, it's going to be very nice. Well, it can happen from any time. Okay. 140. Okay. So it's 140. It's actually 140. Look at it carefully. It's actually what?
139.
It looks like 139, doesn't it?
It is 39. I thought that.
Okay, because it looks like it's 1 right before the 140. And it's, as well as right, it's obtuse. Okay, larger than 90. Alright, but you needed some practice seeing this kind of protractor, not having it in your hand, but when it's on paper. It's more fun to do when you have the actual protractor in your hand, but you've got to be able to do it both ways. Yeah.
On the first one in the third row, first one, if you just take the bottom line of
The bottom right.
The second first row and the that second of the bottom.
Which one are you talking about? All right. So push this up to the corner of your desk for just a second. Let's get rid of old protractor here. Now, lay your pencil down. Okay, and let's just put your eyes up here for a second. All right. So, one of the other things that we worked with angles is when we have 2 adjacent angles, figuring out one. If we have an unknown angle, can we figure out how much it is? We definitely learned how to do that in a number of ways. All right, we started off here, and if we have a 90-degree angle, and if this is cut into more than one piece, okay, and if they tell us, hey, this piece is 35 degrees, what is X? What are you going to do? What are you going to know how to do here? Okay, this is really just knowing what your total is and how to, figuring out the missing piece. What am I going to do? Okay, we know because of this, our total is 90. I know if I take away that piece, I'm going to get the missing piece. So, 55 degrees is what X is. Okay? Yeah. And there's a lot of ways to think through that subtraction like that, but that is definitely one of them. Because what you're doing is you're taking yourself back to those multiples of 10 where it's easier. All right, what if we had a straight angle, which is how much, everybody?
180.
All right, so knowing that, that's one of the reasons we want to know. Straight angle, 180 degrees. Because if we have a problem like this, we want to know that that's our total. Because they're not going to tell us. They might tell us, hey, this is a straight angle. If they do, I'm going to know it's 180 degrees. And then there might be all these lines like this. And sometimes there's more than one. Okay? And sometimes they'll say, hey, this is, I'm just making up numbers here. And a lot of times, if I were to take a protractor, this might not be exactly the exact number, but they might just give you the numbers. If this is 75 and this is, I don't know, 80, okay? What would X be now? So what would you do? You don't have to tell me the answer right now, but what would you do to figure it out, Martin?
Add 75 and 80.
Okay, I'm going to start off by adding these two. But is that my final answer? No, I'm going to add those two. I'm going to get 155. And then, what am I going to do? Subtract it from my total. And there we go. Now we know this right here. Okay? All right. Then we took it a step further. Then we started saying things like this. What is my total when I see something like this? What is the whole thing? Yeah. 360 degrees. Okay, so we get that. What else do we know? This is where we pull out what we know. I know the whole thing's 360. Okay. What else do I know? Tell me something else.
You know when you see that little box around one of the corners, you know it's going to be 90.
Okay, so I know I've got 90. What else do I know? Like what did they tell me? What information did they give me?
An angle is 135.
Okay. Alright, and I also know if I add X also, I'll get 360. When I put all three pieces together, I'll get 360. So Brandon, what would you do first there? I know all of this is 360. Okay.
You subtract 360 and 135.
I could subtract both of these, do two subtractions, but I know you guys pretty well, and I don't think you want to subtract twice, but you could. If I didn't want to subtract twice, what could I do? What? It's the same thing we did before. What?
You can add 90 plus 135 and subtract it 360.
I could subtract 225, just subtract once. If you don't like subtracting. And I would know that this is also 135. That's a mess, so I'm going to circle my answer. Okay. All right, one more thing I'm going to ask you. Sometimes you're going to get something like this. And let's see, maybe I'm given this one. And then I'm asked to find this and this and this. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it becomes pretty simple if you remember a little rule that we learned. Okay? What would that rule be? Okay, it's equal, isn't it? So y is equal to 150. Okay, but that still doesn't tell me x and z. What am I going to need to do? Yeah. I could. And I'm going to get, 150, 150 is 300. Okay. So where would I go from there? If these two together make 300, and they do, what else do I know? Yeah. The total is 360. So that means these two make 60 together. Is that right? Okay. So what have I got to do to that 60 to figure out what one of them is, not both of them? Both of them together make 60. So what would I do? And the way to do that with a math problem is when you cut something in half, you just divide it by 2. But you might, like you said, you might already know, half of 60 is 30. So both of these are 30. That's not the only way to do this. I want to show you something just to remind you because we did this. This guy right here is a straight angle. This guy right here is a very crooked straight line. Let me try again. Is 180. Okay, both of those lines are 180 degrees. So if I look at all of this right here is 180, and I know that this is 150. I just need 30 more to get to 180. Same thing along this other line. Same thing on the bottom of the pink line and the bottom of the green line. Okay. Lots of ways to figure this out. And the more ways you know to figure that out, the more that's going to help you when you get to even more complicated problems as you get older. Okay. If you flip your sheet over, there's one more thing that's in the middle of the page that I want to ask you about. Now this came along a little bit later. Alright, we have an obtuse triangle right here because this is 95 degrees right here. And it might not really be, I'm just going to say that it is. Okay? Because sometimes that's how, even in your workbook they might do. They might not have it really measured. They're just giving you some numbers. If I know that this is 95 and I know that this one is 45, can I figure out this one?
Yes.
Y'all listen. Okay? Can I?
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely can. How do I know my total? What do we know about any triangle? Any triangle. Bailey, what? It can. So we know this is not going to be obtuse. But what else do we know? Yeah. This plus this plus this. Always, any triangle equals 180. So if I do 180 minus these two, I'm going to have this one right here. 95 and 45 together. Anybody want to guess? Thanks.
40. I guess.
I appreciate the timing of that one.
Oh, yeah. That definitely did at the right time.
All right. Just wanted you to remind. Does anybody remember with a quadrilateral, any four-sided figure? All of the angles add up to what? flip over a page if you haven't already, and we're going to do the back side. And what you're doing is trying to find the missing angle. They didn't put a letter with it, they just left it blank. Okay? So they've given you one number, they want you to find the missing number. Sometimes they've given you two numbers. So I'm going to give you a minute to do that. That's the main thing. Got about another minute to try to finish up. Alright, so for the first one, did they tell you that was 90 degrees in any way?
Yeah.
Where?
No. No.
Where did they say it was 90 degrees?
You never said it.
That's what I'm asking. No, it didn't show it. There's no box there, and it didn't say angle such and such is 90 degrees. If they don't tell you, and it looks that close to 90 degrees, just go ahead and act like it's 90 degrees. Okay, it should. They should have said in the directions, top of the box or something, this angle is 90 degrees, but they didn't. Okay. But if this is your 90-degree angle and this is 70, what's the missing angle going to be? Ishmael? 20 degrees. Okay. All right, in the second one, we had a straight line. So how much is that worth? 180, and they gave us 40 degrees. So if we take 40 away from 180, what do we get? 140. Okay. All right, we had a triangle, and what kind of triangle was this? It's a right triangle. It is scalene. It's a scalene right triangle. Okay. So when you see that little box right there, that tells you it is a right triangle. But the whole thing, no matter what kind of triangle, it's 180 degrees. So if you know this angle and you know this angle, 90 and 40 is 130 together. How much is this one going to be? Okay, it is 50. All right, next door, we had a triangle that looked like this. What kind of triangle can we tell? It does look like an isosceles triangle. It almost looks like a right triangle, but we're not sure until we figure out the angles. We know this one is 35, and we know this one is 35. Okay, so what are we going to get for a total? Brandon, if we take 35 and 35 away from 180, what are we going to get? No, because the whole thing together is going to equal 180. All right, what is 35 plus 35? 70. Take 70 away from 180, and what are you going to get? 110. Okay. All right. Number 5 was one of those all around things. This was 200, and this was 55. So 200 degrees, 55 degrees, we subtract both of those from 360, what do we get? Okay. One missing angle was 105. And then our last one here, it looked upside down. But it, angles can go in any direction. This was 68. This was 33. So what is that missing angle? What do you think? Ishmael, what? 79? Okay, so 68 and 33. And you said 79. Alright, take this sheet and put it in your binder. This is kind of like our problem set today, just a practice page.